Welcome to the Productivity and Planning Mastermind. Productive Execution Techniques, Module Number 3. Productive Execution Techniques is broken into 3 sections. Section 1, How You Work. Section 2, Productivity Techniques. And Section 3, Seamless Execution. Section number 1, How You Work. How you work. Everyone works differently and has different strengths and challenges that are helpful to understand to make the most of our productivity. There is no right or wrong way to work. As long as progress is being made and tasks are being completed, you are on track. If progress is not being made, you may be struggling to utilize your natural work style or fighting against it. Often this happens when we create unnecessary expectations for what it means to be productive. Comparison is the thief of joy, Theodore Roosevelt. People set unnecessary expectations a few ways. By comparing their work and lives to others, by idealizing conditions in which they should work, by focusing too much on the past or the future. In order to maximize your productivity and execute effectively, you need to see yourself and your work as it is in the current moment. What is your work style? Oftentimes, individuals have a hard time executing to capacity because they try to work in a style that is not natural to their productivity. According to Gretchen Rubin in her book, Better Than Before, there are 3 work styles that one could naturally fall into: sprinter, marathoner, or procrastinator. Are you a sprinter? The sprinter is someone who needs the pressure of a deadline to propel them into action. They can complete a large project or many tasks in a short period of time because they can focus in on their goal and will work tirelessly until it's met. Sprinters do not work well with long-term projects and goals unless those goals are clearly broken down into shorter time frames. Are you a marathoner? The marathoner is someone who prefers to accomplish projects by completing tasks over a longer period of time. They prefer to work slow and steady, completing fewer tasks per day, but working more days to accomplish their ends in order to lessen pressure. Marathoners thrive with a long-term goal or project, but struggle to act on tasks with a short-term deadline. Are you a procrastinator? The procrastinator waits until the last minute to accomplish tasks and usually does not complete them. Like the marathoner, they do not do well with the pressure of the deadline, but like the sprinter, they also struggle to get started in advance. If you are a procrastinator, admit it and try to understand why you procrastinate. Choose which work style fits you more and actively avoid your procrastination triggers. Use alarms and alerts to keep you on track, and reward yourself for successful changes. Which style is you? Based on these descriptions, which style do you believe applies to you? It's not about what you want to be, but understanding what you are. You naturally have a rhythm to your work, and knowing that predisposition helps you plan accurately and execute effectively. What sort of workspace environment do you work best in? Where you work, either by choice or by necessity, plays a big role in your mental preparation and how you get into work mode. Do you gravitate towards an organized or a cluttered space, an office or a mobile setup, being an early bird or being a night owl? The question of the organized versus cluttered workspace has been a long-standing debate in productivity. Being organized can be a preference towards order and peace of mind, or a means to procrastinate because conditions are not perfect. Clutter can cause inaction and lack of inspiration for many, but it is said to be a creative stimulus for others. Depending on the type of work you do, you may prefer to work from an office versus a mobile setup. An office can often stimulate productivity whether or not you work from a desk, as the concept of going to the office activates work mode for many. Some prefer to be more mobile with their work, as even those who work from a desk will choose to work from a coffee shop, library, or conference room to lessen the pressure a formal office brings. Certain times of day are naturally more active times, giving us a disposition towards being an early bird versus a night owl. Despite your formal work schedule, you may find that you have more energy in the morning or in the evening. If you work during the day but find you are a night owl, consider how you can plan your day around the evening so that you are using that time productively, while an early bird might use that time to relax before bed. Mental preparation for work mode. Knowing the conditions under which you work best is a great step to maximizing productivity, but there are also a few more variables to consider when mentally preparing yourself for work mode. It is crucial that you get enough sleep each night to easily switch into work mode and execute at a high level consistently. You need to ensure you are energetically prepared to work on a physical level through proper nutrition and hydration. Setting an intention for your workday or identifying subjects of gratitude often helps mentally prepare us by helping us understand what we are working for. No matter how much mental preparation we do, some of us find ourselves at points where we are physically unable to work. These can either be short-term or long-term situations of illness, but either way, they affect our productivity and ability to execute. It's important to acknowledge your situation and understand that your health is the number one priority. Don't compare yourself to others or try to increase effort in an attempt to equalize yourself to expectations. Accept that you won't be able to execute at full capacity, and if and when you can work, it's important to know what work deserves your attention. Lessen your load as much as possible and communicate any changes to those around you who need to know. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. Eleanor Brown. Failing to execute. What stops us from executing? There are a few reasons, as I see it, for why we fail to execute. Poor planning that leads to overwhelm, fear of success or getting what we want, mistrust of others based on past behavior. The first is rectified with functional planning, but what causes the other two issues? Overcoming obstacles to execution. Fear of success and mistrust of ourselves are both issues of confidence. We fear success because we don't believe we deserve it, or we are afraid of what comes next. We mistrust ourselves because we don't believe we can learn and do better next time. Everyone struggles with their self-confidence, but the best way to overcome that is through action. You must break the cycle of overwhelm and set reasonable expectations on yourself so that you establish a new pattern of success. How you work. Examples to consider. Marathoner, sprinter, or procrastinator. Joy wants to identify her work style so she can maximize her productivity. She always tries to get out ahead of work by starting as soon as she can, but she always ends up doing the bulk of the work in the last few days before the project is due. It bothers Joy that she can't seem to get work done until the last minute, but no matter how early she starts on a project, she never has it done early, always just in time. What is Joy's work style, and which is she trying to force herself into? Making mental preparations. Tammy works in the admissions office of a local college and would like to increase her productivity as she often has many tasks unfinished at the end of the day, despite believing that she has enough time in the day to complete them all. She believes her issue is energy related, that she doesn't have the capacity of energy to move quickly through her work despite being in general good overall health. She decides to focus on her mental preparation for work by taking more time to sleep at night, eating better, and by creating a daily plan of action. Although the routine change is difficult initially, Tammy finds that she is capable of handling more now that she has prioritized her mental preparations for work. Physical setbacks. Nina is a part-time customer service representative with a physical ailment that affects her ability to work. She has taken the recommendations of her doctor and takes care of herself as best she can, but she often feels defeated that she cannot seem to make progress on her many goals outside of work the way many of her friends do. Nina recognizes that she needs to be her first priority and that she needs to adjust her expectations due to her condition. Now, Nina sets one goal at a time for herself and finds that she is much happier and more successful now that she has stopped comparing herself to others and makes slow, steady progress towards one thing at a time. Section number 2, productivity techniques. Why productivity techniques matter. As we've already established, each of us work with a unique style, and as each of us do different types of work throughout our days, having a fundamental understanding of different productivity techniques gives us options for ways to execute efficiently in different scenarios. Consider the following techniques and how you could apply them to your own work where applicable. Being busy and being productive are two different things. 80-20 rule or Pareto principle. We discussed the 80-20 rule in an earlier module, so you may already remember that this is the principle that 80% of your results come from only 20% of your effort. Another way I like to think of this, however, is done is better than perfect. For those who find that work is always taking longer than expected, ask yourself if you may be doing more than is necessary to complete a task. If yes, you should keep the 80-20 rule in mind. By recognizing that 80% of your work is extra, think of how much time you could save by just working on the 20% that yields you the highest results. On most grading scales, an 80% is a B, which is a good solid grade. So unless a task really needs to be an A, why spend the extra effort? This doesn't mean you should always put out B work, but for many of our tasks, I bet a B will be just as well received as an A. Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law is the concept that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion, meaning most people will take the full amount of time set aside for a task to complete it. Example, if you have a report due by 11 a.m. and it's 9 a.m. now, it will take you until 11 a.m. to complete it. If it's due by 2 p.m., it will take you until 2 p.m. even if you start it now. If you are someone who frequently fails to complete tasks despite having the time to complete them, you could benefit from using Parkinson's Law to apply a time frame to your tasks. By scheduling when you will work on a task and how long you reasonably expect it to take, you will ensure you aren't procrastinating on tasks or spending too much time working on something. The Pomodoro Technique. The Pomodoro Technique is a time management strategy where you use a timer to work in 25-minute blocks. After each block, you take a 5-minute break, and after a string of 4 blocks, you take a 15-minute break. This technique is good for those whose work often consists of many quick tasks, or for those who are compelled to take breaks frequently, for example, to check their messages or social media. Using a timer method to work can help you batch like items together and cut back on time waste by having a defined time frame to focus and a defined time to relax. Getting things done. Getting things done is a productivity methodology created by David Allen in which you define a single inbox for your tasks, a physical or digital inbox or task list, and group tasks by context, like email, calls, computer, etc., giving you clarity on your next action in any situation. GTD is optimal for typical work environments where tasks come in from outside sources in the forms of emails, calls, paperwork, etc. If you are someone who frequently forgets or misplaces work, this method can help you organize your tasks so that you can work consistently throughout the day despite interruptions because you know what you are currently working on and what comes next. Eat the Frog. Eat the Frog is an execution technique where you start the day by completing the most difficult or unpleasant, based on your own standards, task first. This strategy is great for people whose productivity suffers because they avoid difficult tasks. By getting the worst task or tasks out of the way early in your day, you release the fear and tension that you experience waiting to do something that you don't want to do. Once the task is done, you are empowered for the rest of the day to act because everything else seems easier. Kanban. Kanban is a method of task management where you keep tasks in one of 3 lists: to do, in progress, and complete. So you are clear on the status of your tasks and next actions. Kanban is a great method to use when working on projects. List all your tasks out on sticky notes and divide a board or paper into 3 sections, moving the notes to their appropriate column as you work to visualize your progress. Having a visual map of your work and progress often gives us motivation to continue making progress. Often, when we spend time on project-related tasks, we lose sight of how much we have accomplished already and that the end is nearly in sight. Don't break the chain. Don't break the chain is a productivity technique introduced on the TV show Seinfeld, where you complete a certain task every day. If you miss a day, you broke the chain. This is a great strategy to use for creating habits or for projects where you can take one step a day for a period of time to complete all tasks. It is similar to the marathoner style of working, where small steps over a period of time lead to big results and can help manage expectations while motivating you to continue a pattern of positive behavior. The Quick Start Method. The Quick Start Method is when you choose a task and set a timer for 15 minutes to accomplish it. This technique is great for anyone who has a difficult task they are putting off, or for those who have a hard time getting started on their work. The Quick Start Method can be helpful because it creates a challenge-type environment where the pressure of the clock motivates you to focus. Even if you don't complete the task in the time frame, this method is great for getting you motivated to start working on a task or project. The Momentum Method. The Momentum Method is a technique where you complete an easy task as soon as you can to begin building productive momentum in your day. This is a great technique for those who have a hard time getting started on their work because they just need to start with something simple that makes them feel like they have accomplished something. The Momentum Method goes hand in hand with why you should make your bed in the morning or why people love checking tasks off a to-do list, because it provides a feeling of personal satisfaction that is motivation to continue taking positive action throughout your day. Eating an elephant. Eating an elephant is the concept that large endeavors should be approached one step at a time. For those who struggle with anxiety related to working on big projects or complicated tasks, it can be helpful to keep in mind that such situations call for project planning into milestones and individual action steps. When we break a large endeavor into milestones or significant stages of development, it can help us to focus on the tasks at hand instead of being distracted or overwhelmed by the big picture. Milestones can then be broken down into individual action steps in a project planning model. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Gamification. Gamification is the concept of adding game-like elements to non-game situations, in this case, your productivity. Example, every task you check off your to-do list earns you a star. Collect 10 stars and you can go to Starbucks for a drink. For those who like rewards or challenges, gamifying your tasks by outlining a simple milestone and reward system that applies to your work can be a fun way to increase your productivity. Gamification is something we often do with children to stimulate their productivity, but many adults also find the competitiveness of games as a motivator as well. Productivity techniques. Examples to consider. Trouble getting started. Emily is a full-time social worker with a busy schedule. Although she has a handle on her work, once she gets home, she has a hard time motivating herself to complete personal tasks and chores. Emily decides to use the Quick Start method to help her clean up around the house in the evenings. After dinner, she sets a timer for 15 minutes and quickly moves through her home, tidying up. Then she turns on her favorite TV show, and during the commercials, she feels motivated to spend a few minutes giving each room more specific attention before the show comes back on. Using the Quick Start method helps Emily get into the mindset of cleaning, which is normally hard for her to do. Once she gets into the mode, however, she finds that she does not want to stop until her task is complete. Frequent interruptions. Petra is an administrator at an elementary school who always forgets about certain tasks because she is frequently interrupted during the workday. She decides to implement the GTD method to keep track of her tasks. She starts by identifying a physical inbox where she places all her paperwork and tasks in notes. When a request comes in via email, she prints the email and puts it inside her inbox with a note for the context. Each morning, she organizes her inbox by context and begins on her work. When she is interrupted, she simply makes a note on a sticky as to where she left off and places her work back in the inbox until she returns. By building the habit of putting all tasks into the inbox and keeping the inbox organized by context, Petra misses far less tasks than she did before and is more easily able to batch her work, saving her time during the day. How to eat an elephant. Sometimes we set ourselves projects that are so big that they require being broken down into smaller chunks or milestones. Each milestone would then be treated as an individual project, deserving its own project plan, and the whole project overall would be tracked by these sub-projects. Example: Stephanie and her husband have set the goal to start a family. One of the projects they want to complete this year is to purchase their first home. Because this is a very big project, it can be broken down into sub-projects related to specific categories they need to address, such as paying off debt, saving for closing costs, and finding a home that meets their needs. Each of these categories then becomes a milestone for their project and a sub-project that they will tackle individually. Section number 3, Seamless Execution. Getting started with execution. Productive execution isn't something that just happens. We don't wake up ready to focus on our work. It's a process like a waveform that needs to be built up to and then brought carefully back down to a period of rest. In order to simplify this process, I have outlined a 5-step process for seamless execution that you can use to build up to your optimal level of productivity, and then over time create the habit of riding the productivity wave. Productivity is like a wave. It ebbs and flows. You must build up to the crest of the wave and then ride it back down to the trough before you can expect to reach the peak again. Steps to seamless execution. Step 1, mental preparation. Step 2, plan of action. Step 3, removing or anticipating obstacles. Step 4, getting to work. Step 5, stop and reap your rewards. Step 1, mental preparation. The following are key to preparing yourself to execute. Get enough sleep, eat a balanced diet, keep hydrated, set an intention for what you want to achieve, and prepare your workspace. These tasks will help you switch on to work mode so you can focus on your tasks. Step 2, plan of action. Create your daily plan of action by reviewing your schedule for events or tasks due, by creating your top 3 list of tasks for the day, and by listing out the additional tasks you want to accomplish, referring to your weekly top 5 projects as necessary. Ensure you have set reasonable expectations for your plan of action and added the appropriate amount of white space. Step 3, removing or anticipating obstacles. Before we get started executing for the day, we should spend a moment to remove and anticipate obstacles we might face that could stop the flow of our productivity. Remove obstacles to your productivity by ensuring you have what you need to do your work for the day, like tools such as equipment, paperwork, etc., or access to systems or information. Anticipate obstacles to your productivity by identifying things that normally stop the flow of your productivity, like distractions, close your office door or silence your phone for this, or daily habits like snack time and bathroom breaks. Once you have dealt with things that would prevent or slow down your productivity, you can begin working. Step 4, getting to work. Once you are ready to get started on your work, try out a productivity technique that could help you accomplish more or spend less time on certain tasks. Stop thinking and start doing. There is no substitution for hard work. Now that you have done all the preparation to get to this point, make the most of your time and execute. Step 5, stop and reap your rewards. Once you come to the end of your work or to the end of the day, do the following. Note where you left off on any in-progress tasks, make a quick to-do list for the next day, and clean up your workspace. The key to step 5 is that you need to come down off the productivity wave at some point and stop working. That is your reward. Your day is done and you can relax into the next part of your day. When we fail to clearly do this, we end up putting ourselves in a cycle of constant overwhelm because we feel overworked, and thus the amplitude of our productivity wave shortens so that our capacity lessens over time. Here is a model of the flow of productivity in a waveform. Steps 1 through 3 build up from the trough. Step number 4 is the crest, or the height of productivity. And step number 5 slides into the trough, or rest period. As I mentioned earlier, if we are not good at stopping our workday and giving ourselves a period of rest, eventually it will have a negative effect on our amplitude. As they say, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and in the terms of the flow of your productivity, notice how the amplitude of the crest equals the amplitude of the trough. This is because you must work as hard as you rest. So don't fall into the trap of believing that by skimping on your rest time, you will increase your productivity. Although you may be able to do that for a short period of time, in the long term, you're actually going to hurt your amplitude, which means that you won't be able to achieve as much as you did before, affecting your capacity to get things done. Seamless execution, examples to consider. Removing or anticipating obstacles. Lauren is an esthetician that works at a busy spa. Although she performs a variety of services, she works mostly on an appointment basis, but finds that her appointments frequently run over their expected time. In planning for her workday, she realizes that an issue she runs into is that she often runs out of certain products and then must delay her appointments to refill them before they begin, thus creating a domino effect of tardiness. Lauren decides that in order to remain on time, she will review her appointments for the day and ensure she has enough or extra of certain products before her first appointment, so that she does not have to continually run back and forth to the storage area to find what she needs. Getting to work. Madeline works as a graphic designer for a local newspaper. Most of her day is spent designing advertisements based on orders as they are placed by email from local businesses. But as many orders will come in through the day while she is working on existing orders, she often spends too much time double-checking that she has completed work, as she often begins an ad and then needs to email back with a customer for clarification if she runs into an issue. She decides to start using the Kanban method and creates 3 folders in her email inbox: To Do, In Progress, and Complete. As orders come in through email, she reads the request and drops it into the To-Do file. When she starts a new ad, she puts the email in the In Progress folder, and when it is finished, she moves it into the Completed file. Now, no matter how many ads she starts, she knows which are complete and which are not simply by checking her folders. Stop and reap your rewards. Jocelyn is an assistant editor at a publishing house who often ends up taking her work home with her. She wants to become more efficient so that she no longer needs to take projects home, which puts pressure on her personal time. She is afraid, however, that if she stops taking work home, she will fall behind on work, causing a conflict. She realizes that she isn't as focused as she should be during the workday, but that's because she feels less productive than when she first started the job a year ago. How has Jocelyn's productivity suffered by bringing her work home with her? What advice would you give Jocelyn in this situation? Using the information from this module, identify up to 3 productivity techniques to test out in the next week. You have now completed module number 3. Return to the Productivity and Planning Mastermind Facebook group to await your next set of activities.